In previous videos, we demonstrated how to use server-side action scripting in a dialog to find and edit a user record in an existing table and edit related web security information for that user. In this video, we'll use a grid to edit a record in the table and then open a dialog to edit the security information. We will start with a tabular grid based on a registered user's table. This grid shows a couple editable fields from the table, such as first and last name. We can click on a link, click to edit, which will open a small dialog as a drop-down, and this allows editing the security information for that user. For example, we can edit the security role and save, and reopen to see the change. This dialog also has an option to delete the security information on a button. This delete option will be examined when we look at the dialog. The dialog includes the user name field. This is saved in the record in the registered users table and also in the related security record. This allows the two records to be linked with this value. If we move to design mode, we can look at the JavaScript on the link for username. This has an action JavaScript to open a dialog component to edit the current record in the grid. If we look at the action, we can see the mode is edit existing record. If we look at the help for this mode, we will see that the raw data that is loaded into the dialog in the dialog's onInitialize event will be available in a variable called e.rtc._data. This will be very useful when we get to the dialog. The dialog we will open is called Edit User SEC. The window type we're showing here is a drop-down, and the dialog does have some animation. If we go to the dialog itself, we can see the three fields that we're going to be able to edit. A username, which is saved in also saved in the registered user table, password information, and the security roles. If we look at the data binding, we can see the only control that is bound to a table is the username, so that it is saved in the registered users table. If we look at the events, the onDialogInitialize event has code to populate the values for the user roles radio control, and also has action scripting to load the web security values. If we look at the action scripting, we can see we're going to find the user by the username. We're going to find the source of this value using an RTC variable, as mentioned earlier on the grid, with the construction of _data.fieldName, which in this case is username. So we will get the username that is populated when the dialog opens for the current user and use that to find the security. Dialog events for dialog validate and after dialog validate are the same as used previously in other security dialogs. However, this dialog does have an additional property mentioned earlier. We have a button on this dialog to delete the security information for this user. We can see the dialog type, button type, is an image control, and we have the delete record image we're using on it. We have an enabled expression that to only enable it if the username is not blank. That way we don't delete a user record that has not yet been saved. If we look at the onClick event, we have some JavaScript on here to open a message box, and it asks the question of the user, do you want to delete security for this user? And if the answer is yes, there is an AJAX callback. The AJAX callback will call an XBasic function named delete security. If we look at this XBasic function, we'll see there's a couple things occurring. First, we get the username from the previous username that had been saved, which is an old data submitted. If that username was not blank, that means the record was previously saved with a username. That means the security can be deleted. If there is a saved username, a connection and arguments are defined as the registered users table is a SQL table. The function delete a user is run. If it is successful, a simple update statement is executed to remove the value in the username field in registered users for the current user, and then the connection is closed. This completes the configuration for the dialog.